Before we dive in, here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts.
Oh, there you are. I was hoping I'd cross paths with you today. I'd like to invite you to visit the Story Well. It's a place where storytellers of all stripes gather. From improv performers to authors, screenwriters to playwrights, we all tell stories. But we're not here to talk about craft. We're here to make something out of nothing. Each episode of the podcast, your host, that's me, sits down with a creative person, and based on a series of random prompts, we get elements that we make into a story. Will it be a noir novel about King Kong? Or a Broadway musical about JFK? Even we don't know. That's the fun part. But what do you get out of this, besides a good time with fun people? Simple. The idea is then yours. That's right. Whatever we come up with, we give it away for anyone to use however they'd like, no strings attached. It's like each episode comes with a free prize inside. The Story Well with Kyle Olson. We'll save you a seat at the table.
Hey, movie lovers, I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson. We are the hosts of the Next Reel Film Podcast.
If you're passionate about films like we are, you'll love our show. Each week, we dive deep into a movie, discussing everything from the story and performances to the cinematography and score.
Not to mention budgets and awards. We have covered iconic series like Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather trilogy, examining themes of power, family, and the dark side of the American dream.
We've explored the works of groundbreaking directors like Catherine Bigelow, discussing her mastery of tension.
We've looked at heist films, great car chases, great years in film, couples on the run, and more.
Our discussions go beyond the surface, examining what makes each film tick. We believe that when the movie ends, the conversation begins.
And we'd love for you to join that conversation. Find the Next Reel Film Podcast on your favorite podcast app or at thenextreel.com.
The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Then put your little hoof in mine. There ain't no turning back now once you sign. Soul, I got your soul. I got your soul.
Okay, campers, rise and shine, and don't forget your hoofies, because it's hot out there today.
It's hot out there every day. What is this, Miami Beach? I don't
Not
think so.
hardly. And you know, you can expect hazardous travel later today with that diarrhea blizzard thing.
That diarrhea blizzard thing. That diarrhea blizzard thing. Oh, well, here's the report. The Infernal Weather Service is calling her a big diarrhea blizzard thing.
Yes, they are. But you know, there's another reason why today is especially exciting.
Especially hot.
Especially hot. Okay, but the big question on everybody's lips.
On their burnt lips.
Burnt
lips.
On their burnt, crispy lips. Right. Do you think Faust is going to come out and see his shadow?
Punxsutawney Faust.
That's right, cocksuckers. It's
FAUSThog Day!
Come on, get that Faust out here.
If Faust sees his shadow, we're gonna kick him in the balls.
Yes. Good morning, Star, and welcome to another episode of The Devil's Details, a show where we dig up, decipher, dissect, and deconstruct the many forms of the devil. One of my names is Lester Ryan Clark.
And I sometimes go by Keenan Diaz.
And we're just two lost souls hitchhiking down the highway to hell. And folks, we are so excited, if you couldn't tell, because we are finally talking about... Wait a minute. That can't be right. It says we're talking about Faust.
Yep.
But we already talked about Faust.
No, that was John Faustus.
Now, hang on. You're telling me this guy's going to be different?
Only one way to find out, baby.
I guess. All right. But yeah, folks, Keenan is right. This is the second part of our Faust saga? Arc? Mm-hmm. That's what the kids are saying today, right? Like arc? Like, this is my villain arc, right? Mm-hmm. Or I heard today somebody had made cookies and they were, handing them out. And it was like, oh, no, I can't. It's like, I got to watch my weight. But then somebody else was like, oh, no, this is your winter arc. I was like, how many arcs are there?
How many seasons do we got in this thing?
Yeah. Sheesh.
Your fluffy winter arc. I like that.
Yeah, your winter arc. Yeah. Right? Nah. Back in my day, we called it bulking.
Bulking, but that implies you're going to do something with that bulk.
Right? Yeah, you're eating those cookies to to gain a calorie surplus to spike the insulin to help your muscles. No. I just like chocolate chip.
That's what I do. Yes.
Yeah.
Just the bulk. Step 1, bulk. Step 2,
Bulk.
you're done.
Profit.
You're at profit. So here we go again.
Yeah.
Faust.
Mm-hmm. But yes, folks, this one is different in a few key ways. And we ultimately decided to cover it sooner rather than later because we wanted y'all to still have Dr. Faustus fresh in your minds as we compare the two. And just the fact that this is one of the first and most famous stories where you have the devil interacting with humans. Right? Because remember, before we did this, we had Dante, and the devil wasn't really such of a much there.
Yeah, he was like the Mount Rushmore of what's that place he lives in?
Of hell.
Hell.
You can't see, folks, but I was giving Keenan. Well, I can't see Keenan either, but like I was giving my imagination Keenan like the biggest stank eye.
That was so long ago that we did Dante. I can't remember. Can't keep track of all the details.
Now, you call him the Mount Rushmore of hell. I call him the broken ride at Disneyland of hell.
Right.
That's just perpetually broken.
Right.
He's the shake machine of hell.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
If hell was McDonald's, which it is. No, I don't know where I'm going with this.
The devil was broken is the point.
The devil was broken in Dante, right? Yeah. Great, contribution to literature, but the devil was broken. And then we had Paradise Lost, right? And he was much more fleshed out, right? And he was mostly alone until the very end when he tempts Eve, right? So Faust, whether it be Marlowe or Goethe or the opera, I think it's Gounod. This is one of the earliest accounts of the devil appearing in quote-unquote modern times and really kind of like interacting with humans, right? Like showing up in modern day on Earth, making all these commentaries and jokes about humans, right? This Mephistopheles, Goethe's Mephistopheles, has much more to say about the human experiment than Marlowe's Mephistopheles. Marlowe's Mephisto was kind of tight-lipped about humans, right? Kind of tight-lipped about everything, right? You get the sense that he's not going to tell you anything unless you ask him. And then even then he kind of doesn't want to, but you summoned him and you made a contract with him, so he has to tell you,
And he that version also kind of looks out into the audience and has asides, but they're very like tips of iceberg asides. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah,
I would do anything to get this soul of Faustus. Tell me more about it. Nope. That was just an aside.
Yeah.
Gotta go back to work.
Right. But this Mephistopheles, Goethe's Mephistopheles, is way more loose, way more fun. Marlowe's Mephistopheles is like an employee burdened by his duties. Goethe's Mephisto is like an artist who enjoys his work. Right? He's playful, he's sardonic, he's much more in it and much less above it all, which is funny because Goethe makes it clear in the beginning that Mephisto is the devil.
Right, that's very different from the other one.
Yeah, right? There's none of this like servant of great Lucifer or anything like that, right? But the whole thing is much more whimsical and philosophical compared to Dr. Faustus, which you can almost compare as like a morality play, right? And Goethe took the Faust legend and turned it into this huge exploration of what it means to be human, like what we're all searching for, how we fit into the universe, right? He's got the devil making, philosophical arguments about human nature, and that is one of my favorite things.
All right, so we're kind of comparing and contrasting as we go along. So I like your idea that Mephistopheles in Goethe is an artist, which I suppose makes Marlowe's Mephistopheles more of a sandwich artist. He's going in. And,
there you go.
Yeah, he's corporatized. He's wearing the shirt of his job, and he's just doing his 9 to 5.
Right. He's got those phrases like, "Would you like to make this a Beelzebub meal?" Or. And then he's all done with the sandwich, right?
Right.
And the person's like, "Oh, actually, could you remove the mustard?" And Marlowe's Mephisto is just like, "No, I can't. It's kind of like soaked into the bread now. I would have to make you another sandwich from scratch."
Right.
And the customer's like, "That would be really nice, thank you."
Really great, thank you.
Yeah. He's just like, "Well, I guess I know what I'm having for dinner tonight."
But then the customer, he flips it over and he's going to ask you a few questions, and one of them is a tip. And if you leave 20%, that's one thing. But if you leave your soul, then Mephistopheles gets to ring the little bell at the counter.
Right. Yeah.
and no one pays attention to it. Everyone's just really annoyed. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, but right next to that little bell, there's that little like whiteboard with all the tallies, and whoever has the most little bell rings at the end gets a pizza party.
Oh, great!
Yeah, even though they work at like a sandwich shop.
Guess what? Today you get to learn how to make a different type of bread-based lunch.
Yeah,
for yourself. You get to.
Right. Oh,
yeah, and our
this hell we're building is just so full of fun little details.
little perks. Yeah.
Right? Fun little flares, let's call them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I am going just bit by bit through this. So I think so far the Goethe's Mephistopheles is very clearly different. The Faust part, I'm not quite seeing the difference between this Faust and Marla's Faustus yet, but that might come to pass. But Goethe's Faust is like, oh, Dr. Faustus was my forefather.
Yeah.
So we get to drop the doctor and drop the us at the end.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this is because this isn't about us. This is about Faust. That tickled you way more than
than
I expected.
Yeah.
It's not even in the script, folks. That was just it was off the top of my noggin.
It's
yeah.
very good. Just the idea of podcasters saying this isn't about us. We're not in it for the recognition.
No. 5 stars, please.
Please.
No. But yeah, okay, yeah. Let's get into it. So after Marlowe's version, the story sort of dies down for a while. Then the late 1700s rolls around, and suddenly Germany is having its own Renaissance arc. See what I did there?
Yeah, this is before their bulking arc.
Yes.
And then ...
Right? But before we talk about this version of the legend, we got to talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe himself, right? Poet, playwright, novelist, scientist, philosopher, statesman, he did it all. I guess you could say he was a true Renaissance man. I was trying to think of something funnier, but no, that's it. But yeah, he was born in 1749 to this wealthy family in Frankfurt. Started writing.
That's where the hot dogs come from.
Yeah, right? In case you didn't know. He started writing poetry when he was 8. But, my sources say they weren't, great. In fact, that little rhyme that I just did was better than... It was like, roses are red, violets are blue, and life is just a journey to the grave.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe in the original German, it packs more of a punch. Maybe, yeah. So yeah, by his mid-20s, Goethe he's already famous for this novel, The Sorrows of Young Werther. It's about the guy who makes the little candies. No. It's a Romeo and Juliet type romance, but set in Germany.
And a lot of people say that The Sorrows of Young Werther is kind of the start of many ways of the Romantic period, or the sparking point of the Romantic period in Germany. So a lot of individualism and countering ideas of the Enlightenment, that there is a right way to not just make art and make literature and make poetry, but the right way to think and the right way to be. So yeah, I'm looking forward to thinking of ideas of how this Faust is a version of Romanticism, of hey, I maybe sold my soul to the devil, but I'm just doing me, man.
Wow, that's so badass and romantic.
With a capital R, I'm sure we will try to get Faust to ship with some relationship here, I'm sure.
Oh, he ships with everybody.
Right. But romantic with a capital R is more about the self than romantic like we think of kissing and hugging and stuff like that, yes.
Yeah, right. But yeah, Goethe spent basically his whole life working on Faust, right? We're talking almost 60 years. He started it when he was young. He published part 1 in 1808, didn't finish part 2 until right before he died in 1832, which once we look at part 2, you guys are going to be, you guys are in for a ride.
I don't know anything about part 2. I know part 1 because of its movie adaptations, and then it's roughly analogous. It's roughly analogous to the Faustus one, right? But I have no idea what's in part 2.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm excited. Yeah. Like everything that you know about Faust, folks, right? It's probably part 1, right?
Yeah, doesn't Faust,
I don't want to assume, but yeah.
Doesn't Faust, at the end of part 1, doesn't he,
Get dragged down to hell?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you'll just have to stay with us and see.
So I don't know what there is to do in a part 2 after that, but
You know what? It's the inspiration for The Odd Couple. And it's Faust and Mephistopheles, and they're just, sharing an apartment
Right.
Down in hell, right? Because the joke is that Mephistopheles didn't read the fine print. And it's like, if you win the soul, he's got to stay with you. But in this one, they don't like each other. But yeah, folks, when I say it's different, I mean like part 2 is wild. It's off the rails, Saturday morning Mephisto and friends, like jump the shark, but like in a good way. But by the time we get to part 2, you guys are going to be like, oh yeah, he's the devil. Because like he leaves Faust and goes on adventures with like other deities. But yeah, we'll get to that. We haven't even gotten to Margareta yet. And that's like the big, like in all the adaptations after this one, right? The opera, right? And all those, right? That's the main story is this girl that Faust falls in quote unquote love with. And, the devil makes him young. So, he can woo her. Like that's part 1, right? Halfway through part 2, when, Mephistopheles leaves Faust and teams up with a homunculus in Wagner's laboratory and go on a quest to help it become human. You're all going to be like, oh yeah, Margaret. Like,
oh, really?
That was the thing.
Oh, I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
And that is a little bit different. So Dr. Faustus is young. He's just got his degrees. And Faust is an old man, right?
Right. Well, he's 50.
Yeah. I said what I said.
Yeah, I know.
So he's 50.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
One of these days, Keenan, we're gonna stumble across a story about a 70-year-old meeting the devil, and I'm gonna feel better about myself. Yeah. Maybe when I'm 70. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the story. Now, now I say that, but the poem actually has multiple openings, right? It's like almost as many openings as Lord of the Rings has endings. Remember that, folks? Sitting in the theater and Aragorn and everybody bows to the hobbits and Chewie screams even though he didn't get a medal, and then, we all start to get up and oh, there's another ending, right? Sit back down, right? That's this poem with beginnings. Right. Yeah. So before we dive into the actual story, Goethe gives us this peek behind the curtain, right? He starts with this little poem where he's like sitting in his study. He's getting ready to work on Faust after putting it down for years, right? He's seeing ghostly forms, right? These shadows that have been haunting him his whole life, but now they're just like really intense. And as these ghosts get more real to him, the actual world around him starts fading away. I actually like that. I know I just like ragged on it, but I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff, right? When the storyteller is also a character, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's okay. That's the first beginning.
Well, one thing about that is like, Marlowe is taking this German tale that has just hit the shores of England, essentially, with that chapbook, right? Goethe is now living in the shadows of Marlowe's version, but again, this is a German folktale. So it's so the idea that like he's old. Goethe, I don't know when he wrote this part of it, but he lived into his 80s, so he could actually be elderly, right? And thinking about like, oh, this is a story that I have been thinking about for 60 years at least, right, and writing things down, trying to get it perfect, and I am haunted by the story. I have to put it down.
Yeah, I really like that. So that is the first beginning. Then we get this scene in a theater where 3 guys are arguing about what makes a good play, right? And you got your director, which in the German. So I have the German poem with me, and this character is just Direktor, right? So it's like, okay, that's good, right? And he's all about making money, right? It's like give the people what they want, right? And then
that's what Harley Quinn says.
Yeah, right. Does she? I haven't seen it yet. Does she call him Mr. J?
I don't think so. I don't think they had the temerity to say that. I wish
people would be like, whoa, yeah. Does she say you're a monster?
What's that from? Is that what Harley Quinn says in the?
That's one of her songs. Lady Gaga.
I was trying to think of like Harley Quinn saying it that way.
No.
She calls him Alejandro the whole time. It's very confusing.
Weird. Yeah. But it's hard to read what he's thinking because he's got that Joker face.
So stupid.
Okay. All right. So you got your director, right? And then you got the Dichter, which is the poet. And he's worried about like art and meaning, right? It's like, what about, posterity, right? And then you got your clown, right? Again, that stock character of the clown.
Right.
Except in the German, it's the lustige Person, which just means the funny person. Which I love. Right?
Right.
They have a word for clown in German. But yeah.
But they use the funny person, yeah.
The funny person, right? Like, funny how? Like I'm a clown? No, you're not. No, you're a lustige Person.
Yeah.
Right?
Lustig how? Lustig like
Lustige how, yeah.
Lustig like ein Clown. Nein. Lustig like is,
For as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to be a gangster.
but it's for as long as I can remember, I always wanted to be a criminal person.
Karen, that was our money, Karen. I'm furious right now. Can you not tell? I asked for bratwurst. They gave me a half-frozen Oscar Mayer Wiener. Okay.
Sitting here like a schnook or like a schnook person. they treat me like a schnook person.
Yeah. So we got the director, right, who's all about making money. We got the poet who wants to have art and meaning.
Right.
And then we got the clown, and he's like, guys, why not both? Socrates.
What are you doing here?
Right. But no, the clown's actually making this really smart point, right? Like, you don't have to choose between, being popular and being good, right? Just stop being so pretentious and maybe realize that, everyday life has value too, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now this might seem like it's just, Goethe messing around, but it's actually setting up the big themes that we're going to see in Faust, right? The poet and the clown, they're like, two sides of human nature, right? The part that reaches for the stars and the part that's grounded in reality. And the director, trying to balance it all, could be seen as God, right? Or maybe our own conscience, trying to keep everything in harmony. Right.
Okay, cool. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm a little puzzled by why that's here. So, yeah. All right, great.
Oh, why do we
have
this prologue is here?
Yes, I know we've got a couple prologues. I like the first prologue. The second one I don't get, but yeah, okay, that makes sense. Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. So your thumbs up on the first prologue.
Yeah.
And your thumbs sideways or down on the second prologue.
Yes, but I was waiting for someone to explain it to me. So okay, sure,
all right.
I got it. All right.
Wait do you hear the third prologue?
I'm gonna run out of thumbs, Lester.
Yeah. But okay, about the second one, right? Like the whole thing plays with this medieval idea that everything big is also small, right? Like how the universe works is also how our souls work, right? Just on a different scale. And Goethe would know all about putting on plays. Like he ran a theater in Weimar for years. So the director starts talking about staging techniques and stuff like that. That's all coming from his experience. That's all authentic. Yeah. All right. So now we got this third beginning, and this is actually in the story, right? We got this assembly up in heaven, right? We got God, we got the angels, right? Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Donatello. No.
I'm like, you got to get ready. April's coming.
Yeah, right?
It's April's surprise birthday party.
We gotta make who left all these sandwiches here? Yeah.
We're turtles. We can't eat sandwiches.
We can't eat pizza either. Which is yeah. But no, okay. We got Raph, Mike, and Gabe. Right, and they're singing the glories of God's creation. Right, they're congratulating God on His amazing universe. And this is a quote from the poem. This is the English translation. If you want to follow along, because there's many different translations from the original German. This is the John R. Williams translation, and it is the one that is used in the radio play that we also listened to, which features Toby Jones as Mephistopheles. So, and I will.
And Derek Jacobi as God.
Yes. Right.
Yes,
Yeah. So
yes.
we'll post that in the listener group as well, and actually, yeah, in the show notes we'll put all that stuff. Yeah. But yeah. So this is what the angels sing. They say, "With choirs of kindred spheres competing, the sun intones its ancient sound, and runs its thunderous course, completing its preordained diurnal round. This vision none has comprehended, though angels quicken at the sight. These high and wondrous works are splendid, as when the world first shone with light." Right? Yeah. So, like, already I was like, oh, okay. Like, I don't need another book to understand this book.
Okay, yeah, because it's in simple English translation.
Yeah, right. It's not even like early modern English, like Shakespeare or Marlowe. It's almost like nursery rhymey, right? At least the English translation, right? I mean, we're losing some flavor from the German translation. Yeah.
So, do you think these angels sing this song every damn day?
Okay. When we get to Letters from the Earth, which is a thing by Mark Twain,
Right.
He makes a comment on this. And if I remember correctly, right, when we were talking about those 9 ranks of angels, right, the seraphim are supposed to, like, their whole job is supposed to be like they're stationed around the throne of God singing, like, hallelujahs, and that's it. And that's what they do. You know, you got the other angels, like the archangels and the the principalities and the thrones and the cherubim even, right? They're all, they've got their duties like helping the celestial bodies move, or helping humans down on earth. And then you got the seraphim, and they're singing about how great God is to God around his throne.
But this is a song about how okay, the day is over, essentially. Like, isn't it wonderful? You've made all the spheres of heaven great, and this is the end of this day. And they sing it every single day. Every single damn day.
Right. So luckily we're catching them on like their mood is up, their energy's high, right?
Okay, great.
This would be, in a couple thousand years, it was like, with choirs of kindred spirits. And then Raph is like, Raph, wake up. It says, then runs its thunderous course completing. Right? But yeah, but this makes me like Mephistopheles. Okay, so then in walks Mephistopheles, right? Mephisto, the devil himself. And this is the English translation, but I love how the tone immediately changes when he speaks, right? We were just talking about how much easier it was to understand these angels. But then, okay, now listen to Mephistopheles. He says, quote, "Since, Lord, you deign to visit us once more, to find out how we manage our affairs, and since you've always welcomed me before, I've come to join your household staff upstairs." And this is a perfect introduction to Mephisto, just kind of, coming in and breaking up the seriousness and the solemnity, right? And actually, in this version, in this scene, he's more like the Satan in the book of Job, right? The lowercase Satan.
Yeah. So he's both the devil, like the devil, but he also has a function in the court of God. So
right.
We're combining those two things. I don't know if we've encountered one that's quite like that yet.
Right. This is the first time we've had kind of like the best of both worlds, right? Because he's doing that devil thing that I like, where he's talking to God and he's like, look, Dad, your humans down on earth, they're pretty, poor imitations of you, but then at the same time he's like, the author of all evil at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And somehow he has an open invitation to come upstairs and hang around and like, hey, everything's going perfectly here. Let me just stick a stick in that, right? Like, let me like poke you all in the eye a little bit and let's have a little jape.
Yeah. It is very Maleficent-y.
Yes.
Because like they're all having their celebration and she just shows up. She's like, hey,
hey,
what about me? Yeah.
Right, it's a nice princess you got there. There'd be a shame if someone were to enchant her.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. So yeah, like Marlowe's Mephistopheles is is Ursula, and this one's Maleficent.
Right.
And Milton's Satan is Elsa from Frozen.
Right.
There you go. It's like I like this lineup, right? But yeah, so Mephisto's like, look, I can't do the whole praise thing like they do. It's not my style, right? But here's what's bugging me. You gave humans all this reason and intelligence, and look how miserable they are, right? It actually makes them more bestial than any beast. I really like that. Right? He almost feels sorry for tempting and tormenting them. And God's like, Mephistopheles, you say this all the time. I mean, like, I know these angels sing this same song all the time, but like you also come up here and say this thing all the time, right? Like, can you find nothing good about humans? And Mephisto's like, no, right? All their logic and reason just gives them the ability to behave worse than the animals. And God's like, have you considered my servant Faust? Right? He's got reason and he's using it right. And Mephisto's like, Faust? Are you serious? Like, he's the worst of them. In fact, I was thinking of him when I said all that stuff. And God's like, well, failure is part of learning. And Mephisto's like, well, you sure got him learning a lot. Right.
Yeah, and he's old.
Yeah.
He's like 50. So he's failed
He's like
a lot.
ancient.
He's ancient.
Right? He's no longer cool. He's lame.
Right.
And all his students think he's cringe. Wait, we're talking about Faust, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That all his students think that he is a cringe person.
Yes. Okay, so God and Mephisto, they make a bet, right? Mephisto gets to try to corrupt Faust as long as he's alive. But if he's wrong about Faust, he's got to admit that even when good people are stumbling around trying to figure things out, they can still find the right path.
Yeah. So that is, again, a little bit like the Satan in Job.
Yes.
But there's this element that's not in Job about like, so what if God gets to prove that that Job is going to stay righteous and stay faithful, there's not a and that means this.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, well, that's what we're trying to prove here. If Job will do this, and it's not the Satan saying, if I win the case, then that means what? You know, we don't have it. When people, I don't know. I mean, I know there's a lot of theology about it, but it's missing something like, if Job doesn't do that, then you get to wipe everybody out in a flood, or it's not making that connective tissue at all.
Yeah, the worst that's going to happen to Mephisto is that he's got to make a public apology, I guess. I was like, I was wrong about humans.
Yeah, but in this one, there's at least something. There's some like emotional stakes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. In the Job one, it's just like, let's see what happens.
Oh, you're talking. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. In the Job one, it's completely like completely removed of any emotional stakes. We're going to see what Job does, and well, his kids and his wife and his cattle are going to get killed or whatever, but
or whatever, right.
or whatever. Right.
Thus say the Lord. Like, Old Testament. Yeah. It's like,
Right, but there's nothing, there's no, so we usually don't call it a bet, or, because there's nothing online except for Job.
Oh, I see, yeah. And this one is much more like clearly like a bet.
Yes,
right.
Yes, this is very clearly a bet.
Right, and you can tell because, this modern Mephisto says bet. No, he doesn't.
Bet fam,
right? But yeah, I actually like this opening as well. The angels singing about like the movement of the spheres is Goethe's telling us his like whole worldview about how the universe works. Right, everything's moving, everything's dynamic. And when we got the argument between God and Mephisto, like God clarifies that the only way to really mess up is to do nothing. Right, like you can make wrong turns all day long, but as long as you keep pushing forward, as long as you keep trying, you're going to find your way, like all those heavenly bodies, right? Just the act of trying is moral in itself, right? Yeah, which is interesting.
That sounds romantic, yeah, with a capital R.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But yeah. And I like this Mephisto, right? He's chatting with God, right? He's like a mixture between, like we said, the devil we know and love, right, and the lowercase Satan in Job. And you get a little hint of what Goethe believes here as well. It's similar to what Father Marin in Our Exorcist says. He says, Father Marin says, perhaps evil is the crucible of goodness, and perhaps even Satan, yes, Satan in spite of himself, somehow serves to work out the will of God, right? And Mephisto says this, and God also kind of hints at this, that this Mephisto can do all the evil that he wants, but it's going to kind of like, even in spite of himself, end up turning out for the good, right?
Yeah, it's not like a preordained idea like that. It's just like God is confident in the ability of good. And
Exactly.
The universe is created.
Right. And this is our slightly fallible, like parent blind God that loves his kids, and is like, no, they're gonna be able to take whatever you throw at them, right?
Right.
Yeah, and they'll be able to take all of your badness and turn it good somehow, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What doesn't kill them makes them stronger.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't give them more than they can handle.
Yeah. Right. Those are on T-shirts. I made those, Mephisto's like, no, Lord, I made those. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So now, speaking of the Book of Job, right? Goethe even writes this part of the poem in an older version of German, similar to Jamesian English, right? With all the these and thous and those, right? And you might not catch that from a translation, but then here's the difference. Job's got it all figured out in the beginning of the story, right? And God and Satan test his character, like you said, Keenan, by like heaping misfortune on him, right? Faust is the other way around. He's nearing the end of his life and he's feeling like a failure. And the test is like, let's give him stuff. Let's tempt him and seduce him and see what he does. And where Job addresses the problem of evil, like why do bad things happen to good people, I feel like Faust addresses the question of nature versus nurture, right? Like, does absolute power corrupt absolutely, or were you corrupt before you got all the power? With Marlowe's Faust, right? We gave Marlowe's Faust all the kingdoms of the world, and he showed us who he really was. Will Goethe's Faust be any different? And I like that we open not really knowing who's going to be right, God or Mephisto. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's finally meet our boy Faust.
Yeah, that's 3 openings.
Yeah, that's
counting.
Right. Yeah.
So there's our 4th opening.
This is our actual opening, right?
But I do like the heaven part. Yeah,
yes, I like that too. Yeah. That's where the radio play started. They didn't have the other 2.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so we got Faust, right? It's Easter Eve, and we find Dr. Heinrich Faust. Very nice, very German. In his
no one very German can be very evil,
right? What's the wrestler's name?
Danhausen.
Danhausen, yeah, of course it is. But yeah, so Faust is in his study, right? And we've got these books and weird sciencey stuff everywhere, right? But he is not happy. He is 50 years old, and he has basically got his PhD in everything, right? Just like Marlowe's Faust, right? Or Marlowe's Dr. Faustus, right? He's philosophy, medicine, law, theology, right? But all of his knowledge hasn't helped anybody, right? He's got nothing to show for it. He's miserable because he feels like, there's this wall that he can't get past in terms of like really understanding things, right? And remember, I think I mentioned it in previous episodes. This is right around the time when like things were getting debunked, right? You didn't actually have scientists yet. You had quote unquote natural philosophers, right?
Right.
And this is around the time Galileo being, under house arrest is still fresh in everybody's minds, right? So things are being disproven. So, Faust's he's probably got like a bookshelf full of books that have been proven to have misinformation in them, right? So he's like, I spent my whole life, studying all this stuff, and now half of it is wrong. Right. And that's why he turns to magic. He's like, I want to actually like get answers from somebody who was there. Right. And in this version, right, we just had, Mephisto talking to God. Right. So he was there when the universe was created. Right.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know like Marlowe is one of those Renaissance men from the English Renaissance, like, Shakespeare and Marlowe and Bacon and all that. And they did a bunch of things. That's the nature of being a Renaissance man is, right? But Goethe really did study all those things. So he's a little bit closer to Faust than Marlowe was to Faustus.
Right.
So he really is a scientist. And there's a quote here. This is from Johann Eckermann, who was Goethe's assistant, who wrote this book, Conversations.
So he was Goethe's Wagner.
He was Goethe's Wagner, yeah, for I think like 10 years. So,
oh wow.
So Goethe says, "As to what I have done as a poet, I take no pride in it, but that in my century I am the only person who knows the truth in the difficult science of colors." That's one of his things he was studying.
Oh.
Of that I say, I am not a little proud, and here I have a consciousness of a superiority to many. So he was admitting that at least, the quote I think is meant to downplay his work in the arts, that he saw his science as more important, right?
Right.
But he was conscious enough, near the end of his life to know that he was an actual major scientist who was being quoted and built upon by other scientists. So that is something that, Marlowe did not quite have. Marlowe had that maybe with plays, but I think even in his time, he knew that Shakespeare was more popular than him.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, so already like we're coming from a slightly different place, right? Yeah, and yeah, this informs Goethe's characterization of Faust, right? So when he's talking about like despairing that he can't really know stuff, that's like even Goethe feels that a little bit, right? And he helps us to feel that as well. And so yeah, so this Faust, right? He's already got like this old magic book, right? He just has it, right? There's no Valdez or Cornelius in this one, right? And he summons up this earth spirit, and it's very specifically not a demon; it's an earth spirit, which is. It's like some kind of like elemental, like almost like I want to say like a dryad, right, or something like that, right? Like one of those nature spirits, which already I'm like, wait a minute, you guys know me. It's like we're playing with the pantheons. What are we doing, right? But for some reason, I like this, and yeah, so he summons this thing up, and it's like, who the hell are you? You're just a sad little man, right? And I love that. Even when Faust decides to cheat, when he decides to like break the game, right, and go rogue and become, a dark necromancer, right? The spirits are just like, you're lame, and then they leave.
And he's not like, look, everybody, I did it. I summoned a dryad, and no one's around.
Yeah,
they don't care.
No one's gonna believe you. I'm the dryad that fell in the woods, and nobody's,
Right. Yeah, Nedry's there, and he's like, Dennis Nedry's there, and he's like, look, we got a dryad here.
See?
Nobody cares.
Yeah. Well, why didn't I tried it again and it won't come up? And Nedry's like, You didn't say the magic word. Yeah. But yeah, so just when Faust is getting like really into, just like feeling down, in walks Wagner. And I actually have in my script, it's like, hey, Wagner's here. I didn't know you were going to do that.
Is he going to be a character? Yeah.
Yeah, right. And he's definitely a little bit more fleshed out here. He's actually more like Robin. Not like Raph and Robin, right? They're not in this one. I mean like Robin to Faust's brooding Batman. Right. Yeah.
Holy metaphysical Mephistopheles Batman.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. But like Faust is all like existential crisis, and Wagner's like, gosh, Faust, you're so smart. I hope one day I can be as smart as you. And he's trying to like impress Faust with like stuff that he's learned, and Faust has this aside to us. He's like, I can't stand this guy. and he learns some elementary stuff, and he thinks it's impressive, and he wants to like try to have deep discussions with me. To which I say, Faust, you could be less of an asshole. Like, he obviously admires you and he's trying to impress you, Yeah. But
he's broody, yeah.
Yeah, but like we're supposed to, like, you get the impression that when Faust does that aside, we're supposed to be with him. We'll be like, yeah, this guy, Because then Wagner leaves and Faust gets even darker. He's like, oh, if only Wagner knew the torture of being so fucking smart like me,
Right.
So maybe he is like the like Marlowe's Faust. I don't know. I'm losing my faith here.
He sounds like Lego Batman to me.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Like I can only build with black pieces, or maybe really, really dark gray.
Yeah. But yeah, so Faust gets even darker, right? He starts looking at this skull, which all natural philosophers had for some fucking reason, like just in there, just as decor, right?
Right.
Like we do it ironically, but like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like back then that's a real. You don't go to like Spirit Halloween or whatever. Like that's somebody's head. Is what I'm trying to say. Like who gave him that, or where did he get it?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Hamlet has an excuse. He's walking by in the graveyard.
Right.
They're like, here's a head.
Mm-hmm. And it cuts right before Faust shows up. He's like, hey, if you're not doing anything with that. I was like, why do you want? I just science reasons.
I mean, this is a big aside, but there was. I don't think bones were quite the same, because I think that's the evidence we have from Hamlet, right? Like they're literally kicking out the bones because that person has decayed, and they need room for more important dead people now, right?
Yeah.
So it's alas, poor Yorick is not just Yorick is dead. It's like I Hamlet, who have been thinking about my posterity and how people are going to think about me, and like, will I go down as the guy who avenges my father or not? Like, oh yeah, Yorick, who I knew in life, he's literally getting kicked out of his grave, right?
Right. He's not you won't even have a final resting place. You're going to get evicted from that. You're going to, and then you're going to crumble into dust, and you're going to just be like on the wind, like completely forgotten.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but especially in England, I think this must have been happening in Germany as well. But like when Mary Shelley is writing about Frankenstein, the idea of doing dissections and learning about the body, the only way you can, which is through dissection, and they would have to go through grave robbers in England. I'm not sure how it was in Germany. So Frankenstein in the book, and then the movies based on him, like he's just shown like being a nobleman who's going and digging up graves.
All right. Yeah.
But oftentimes in real life, the doctors, the med students would go and like hire people to go and actually like dig up bodies.
Yeah, yeah.
Oftentimes like fresh, like that body was buried one night, and then they're like digging up the body the next day.
Because we need it in that condition so we can like do the tests and stuff. Yeah.
Right, and then that did cause, at least in England again, at least a couple of documented times when they were out of bodies and people just went and murdered people and sold them to the med schools, and were like, here, I found this body.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you go to, some of the churches in Europe, and they have like those big ossuaries, right? Like Google ossuary, like OSS. Oh, Jesus.
I was waiting for you. I'm right at my keyboard. All right, I'll do it. Ossuaries.
OSSUARY. And it's just these churches where like there's so many, dead folks that they're just like, let's just make the church out of them.
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
And you have like bone chandeliers and the walls are just like, just skulls stacked, one on top of the other, right? Yeah, right. And that, like, it's better fate than our buddy Yorick, who's
right.
he just gets kicked out and, like just kind of shrivels on the ground. But like these guys have become architecture.
Right. If Hamlet wasn't passing by that day, and I'm sure there's some director who's like, no, everything is important. So Hamlet knew that they were kicking Yorick out that day or whatever. But if Hamlet wasn't passing by that day, Yorick would be smashed into bone meal probably.
Right. That's the thing is just like it's so fleeting. Like every trace of you just gone. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Ugh, okay. Yeah. Let's not think about that anymore. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But yeah, so we got, but Faust is definitely thinking about it, looking at that skull, right?
Right.
And he's thinking about ending it all, right? He's even got the poison ready and everything, and he starts soliloquizing to it. But then, just as he is about to drink the poison, church bells start ringing, and there's this choir singing about Easter, right? About resurrection and eternal life, which I guess is supposed to be seen as like, as like divine intervention, right? But Faust was like soliloquizing for quite a while. I think the church bells were inevitable, right? Like I think he started the soliloquy like at 8 p.m. and yeah. But yeah, so Faust doesn't actually like believe any of this anymore anyway.
Right.
But it hits him right in the childhood memories, right? It reminds him of when he did believe in it, and somehow that's enough to pull him back from the edge of drinking that poison. Yeah, and that's it. That's the end of that little scene. And then it's the next day, and now it's Easter Sunday afternoon, and everybody's out and about, right? They're heading to the countryside because spring is here, right? The whole town's in this fantastic mood, like nature itself is coming back to life after winter. And our boys Faust and Wagner are taking a stroll with everybody else, and Faust is into it, right? He's like vibing, like with the whole celebration, right? But Wagner's being kind of like a stick in the mud, right? Like he's he can't loosen up enough to enjoy himself. And I don't know why, but I immediately got the feeling, oh, Wagner knows what's up, and Faust is the fool in this scene. Right? I think the first scene shows us that Faust is a little full of himself, and Wagner admires him, and he's trying to be like him, and he's maybe like a little bit more, I don't know, innocent and pure, and therefore like whenever Wagner says, I don't know about this, then I'm like, oh, okay, like he's the one, like Faust would be the one who's like, there's no such things as ghost. And Wagner would be the one who's like, I don't know, Faust, right? And we would believe Wagner, right?
Okay. But I guess there's no indication here that like why Wagner would be on edge here.
Right. And
on
then
defense.
And then it like switches. It does a 180. And this is confusing for me, right? Because like this peasant comes up and he's like, oh, Dr. Faust, you're such an amazing doctor. And it just like hits Faust the wrong way, and it gets him thinking about how, useless he feels, right? And he starts telling Wagner about, this war going on inside him. Part of him wants to, just enjoy life's pleasures, but, another part's like reaching for the stars, something bigger. He's so desperate for that higher understanding that he says he'd give anything, right? Even his soul, just to get it. And here's where Wagner's like, maybe you should be careful with all that spirit talk. and right here is where they notice there's this black poodle following them. And Wagner's like, oh, that's a cute dog. But Faust is like getting this feeling that there's like something not quite right about this. I can't get over that it's a poodle. Like,
yeah, I know.
Did poodles mean something like when you say poodle? Like
I think that the poodle that you and
like
I
when you say
about,
pudding, it means something different in England, right?
Pudding means just dessert in general, but also just not dessert. It means like bread.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, bread that you put gravy on.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, is poodle like because Because that's an image, like a trope, is the black dog, right? It's a harbinger of death, right?
I think that when you and I imagine a poodle,
Uh-huh.
or anyone in America today, we imagine a toy poodle,
Okay.
or a miniature poodle. So
Right, the miniature.
poodle, I had to look this up too. I was
Okay.
like, why is that? But a poodle is not a small dog; it's a medium-sized dog, and then we've just been making it smaller and smaller.
And I'm thinking of the poodle with the 20th, 21st century haircut,
Right, exactly.
which of course it wouldn't have.
Yeah, no, it's a hunting dog. Like,
Really?
yeah, it's like the equivalent of a water dog in Germany. But
Wow.
yeah, I don't know. We just started looking at them and be like, that should not kill. That should be very killable. Let's make smaller and smaller versions that we have to be
Let's dress it up
careful
like a
not
Q-tip,
to step
like-
on. Right. yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in my head, it's going to be that type of poodle.
The toy poodle. Or
the toy poodle, yeah,
the
yeah.
miniature poodle. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Just rap, rap, rap. But what I'm saying is, the characters have switched, right? Because first you got Faust, and he's like, everything's great, lighten up, Wagner, and Wagner's like, oh, I don't know, and now it's completely, Wagner's like, oh, it's a cute dog, and Faust is like, oh, no, there's something wrong about that. Look, it's circling us, right? And in the end, the poodle has circled them. I guess it's like in a spiral, and it's getting closer and closer and closer, and finally it just kind of just jumps up on their. Well, it wouldn't be their laps because they're standing up, but just kind of jumps up on them, and Wagner's like, "See, it's just a harmless poodle," and Faust is like, "Yeah, I guess you're right. All right, I'm going to take it home," and that's what he does,
Right.
and that's the end of that scene, right?
Right. If this thing follows me, I'm not going to stop it. Essentially.
Right. Yeah.
Which is his overall attitude with Wagner. I think.
Yeah.
If this guy's going to come in here and like, oh, you're so great, Dr. Faust, or whatever, I'm not going to stop him from doing that. But I don't like him.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So he's not like a dog. He's not like a dog. He's like, hey, oh wow, a dog. That's so great. I have a dog now. He's just like, well.
Yeah.
If it's around, that's one more thing to worry about.
Yeah, right. So now Faust is back in his study, right? It's the evening, and that poodle's still hanging around, right? He tells it to go sit in the corner, right? And guys, you got to listen to the radio play because you got an actual poodle just in the background while Faust is doing this next little bit. But yeah, so he's feeling pretty good after his afternoon out, right? Thinking maybe he's finally gonna find some peace, right? And he's got this beautiful moment where he's like, when the lamp's lit in our little room, that's when things get clear in our hearts. That's when we start understanding ourselves. But and there's always a but. With Faust, the minute he starts thinking about life's fountainhead, right? It's like he's back in his his funk, right? It's like the purpose, the meaning of life, right? So what does he do? He decides to translate the Gospel of John into German, like you do.
So no one's done that yet?
Because I guess not. Well, this is way before Vatican II, right? So it would be in Latin, I guess.
That it does seem late. Maybe he's just like, I'm going to do it myself. Like
an experiment. It's like
a better version. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So he's decided it's like, yeah, this is going to be like I'm gonna be more accurate than what the translation is. Yeah. So he but he gets stuck right at the beginning. Like literally, it's like in the beginning was the word, and he keeps trying different versions, and he finally lands on it's like, oh, in the beginning was the deed, right? Because he's like, I don't like that word. I just like that doesn't make any sense, right? In the beginning was the deed, right? And this isn't just Faust being picky about words, right? This is Goethe dropping one of his big ideas on us, right? Action is what makes the universe tick. Right? Yeah. So
it also lets you. It lets you critique God if you're not taking it as a given that the word is correct, that anything that God says is right, that God can be bad in some ways, right?
Right.
Because it's about what God does.
Yeah, and this version of Faust does get kind of fast and loose with theology, right? And God's place in all of it, and the devil's place in all of it, which we're going to see a lot of in part 2. But yeah, so meanwhile, this poodle, right, starts getting very antsy every time Faust reads the Bible. And I like you can almost have a slapstick thing. It's like in the beginning, it's like, was the word, but Faust is like, wait a minute. and he uses some magic to make whatever this thing really is show itself. And who pops up? It's our buddy Mephistopheles, dressed up like a traveling scholar. Right. And again, like the radio play does a really, really good job. It's like this big explosion, this comic like crash, and this like, like clanging metal and break, it's like everything's like just like tumbling, off the tables and everything. And Mephistopheles is like coughing, like he just came out of a Looney Tunes explosion. He's like,
right.
like that. Love it.
I wasn't sure about Mephistopheles looking like a traveling scholar. Like I was trying to figure out like what that would mean.
Yeah. In both versions so far, he has a disguise that Dr. Faustus makes him change into a Franciscan friar.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So this is a scholar here, but I don't know. So I don't know if this is the same type of scholar, like whether this was like, I'm visiting other universities or other monasteries, I'm learning there or not. But like one of the things that Goethe was known for was kind of popularizing the idea of going and doing like a young man's post-college travel life. That became a big thing. So like
taking a pilgrimage
yeah. So I'm not sure how popular that was in Shakespeare and Marlowe's time to like go to the continent, but eventually it would be like the Grand Tour, they would call it, which you might have heard of.
Right, yeah.
When you go to the Olive Garden and you do the tour of Italy, and it's a lasagna and a fettuccine alfredo and a chicken parmesan.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
Right. And free breadsticks. It's like...
Oh, don't forget the never-ending breadsticks.
No.
Yeah, but the tour of Italy or the Grand Tour became eventually in England, at least, like the this idea of like if you were anybody and you've gone through your college, like you need to go to Venice and you need to go to all these different places. So like Goethe was one of the ones who was writing about that early on. So I'm not sure if that's the kind of scholar that he means, or something different. Like is it a young post grad scholar? Like I'm going out and like I'm being a kind of a what's the word, like a young man sowing my academic oats.
Right. Yeah. That's
or
a good question.
Saying, like, Mephisto is like an aged scholar. I'm not sure what he means.
Right. Is he supposed to like be looking like Faust's contemporary, or like another young Wagner or something? Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna have to go back and check if there's any details about that. But yeah. So folks, this is a big moment, right? Mephisto's been like stalking Faust ever since that bet with God. But like he needed Faust to make the first move by calling out the devil, right? Faust is basically saying it's like, I'm done, with all the normal ways of like finding meaning, right?
Right.
And Mephisto, right? Like he's smart. He shows up looking like a scholar instead of some scary demon because he read Marlowe's play. No, he remembers how Faust got freaked out by the Earth Spirit.
So that guy doesn't come back or anything.
No, that guy does not come back. And
he didn't get vanquished.
No.
He just walked out the door.
He literally was like, "This is lame. I'm gone."
So where did he go?
And the folks, you're gonna hear it in the radio play. He sounds more like a devil than our devil. Right, our devil is Toby Jones, right? Who's great,
right.
But like they do some kind of like filters on the Earth Spirit's voice, like that, and like the first time I was listening to it, I was like doing my laundry and I didn't know. I was like, oh, is that Mephisto? No, that's the Earth Spirit. but he's literally like, this is so lame. I'm out of here. And that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
But where could he goes to Ibiza or something and just
Ibiza.
the beach. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, he's gone, right? But yeah, but now we got Mephisto, right? And when Faust asks who he is, our Mephistopheles gets all philosophical. He's like, I'm part of that power that always wants evil but ends up doing good. I'm the spirit that always says no, right? And he's kind of hinting, about what we were talking about back up in the prologue in heaven, where whether he likes it or not, he is part of God's plan. And even though he tries and tries and tries to sow evil into the world, or do evil in the world, things always end up kind of like turning out for the good. All right. And they get into this whole debate about what it means to be like part of a whole, which really gets under Faust's skin. And here's where it gets interesting. Faust invites him back, but won't release the spell that's keeping him there. So he's like, oh yeah, I want to talk more with you. I'll talk with you tomorrow. And Mephistopheles is like, okay, well, could you do me a favor? And it's this is really embarrassing, but I'm kind of trapped, right? Because he's in this pentagram that the poodle could walk in. The poodle like didn't see,
Right.
And now that he's the devil, he's like, oh well, now you got me, right? And so, but Faust is like, no, I'm actually going to keep you here.
Right.
And, he's like, yeah, it's like, if even the devil has to follow rules, like maybe I can make a deal with you, right? But Mephisto's got some tricks. He gets these spirits to sing Faust to sleep with this like beautiful song. It's all about these like sensual pleasures in these far off lands. And then once he's asleep, he calls on the rats in the walls to come and like nibble on the lines of the pentagram so that he can get out. And he does, and he refers to himself as the master of all mice and bats and lice and rats, and I love that. That's another, it's like the Lord of the Flies. I love that kind of touch. Right? He's the master of the carrion and the pestilence and all that stuff. Right. But yeah, so he gets out of there, but like not before kind of like sweeping his cloak around and saying he's like, farewell, Faust, for now. Right? And then he's out, and then Faust wakes up and he's like, oh, was it all a dream? And no, because it's not an American writing this, so. Right, this isn't Dorothy. This is,
Right.
Yeah, this is actual. I saw a TikTok yesterday about it was a mom recording her child. She had just seen the entirety of Wizard of Oz, and she was walking around. She had her it was like a picture book of the movie. And she was just like holding it by one page, and it was just like dragging on the floor. And she was in her little like Dorothy outfit, and she was just like walking to her room, and you hear the mom's voice. It's like, "What's wrong, honey?" And she's like, "So it was all a frickin' dream." Because scarecrows don't actually talk, and lions don't actually talk. It was all a frickin' dream. And I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a sequel where it's real a little
Sure.
bit, so you can go and see that. But
Yeah.
in the modern version, right, it would be all a dream. But then Dorothy, why don't you go up and wash your face before dinner? And she goes, and then she goes in there and she has the ruby slippers on. She's like,
Right.
what?
Credits. Wizard of Oz. And then the post-credits scene, they're all like, eating shawarma.
Right.
This is the Tin Man and the, Yeah.
right.
Yeah. But yeah, we're gonna stop there with Faust waking up and asking, so, was it all a dream? Spoilers, no, it wasn't. Mephisto's gonna be back. But Keenan, what do we think of this of this version so far?
Yeah, I said at the very beginning, like I'm not quite sure of the differences yet, but as we're going through it bit by bit, like you're taking me through, I'm like, yeah, I think seeing Faust in this version really relying on his logic and his again like Enlightenment classical ideas of like, well, if this then that syllogisms, etc. I think so. That's different from Faustus, and then Mephistopheles being like, I got rat mice and they come and bite the edges of pentagrams, and so like your reason and your logic isn't going to fly here.
Right.
I like it. I'm liking it.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I'm
How about
excited.
you?
Yeah, I'm liking it too. This was actually the first Faust story that I encountered. Because I thought it's like, oh yeah, it's the German one, so this is the older one, but no. But so I was more familiar with this Mephistopheles and this Faust before peeking at Marlowe and his guys.
Right.
So it was like like this whimsical kind of like Loki-esque Mephistopheles, and then we go to the Office version of Mephistopheles, or working at McMahon's.
He's a sandwich artist at Subway.
Subway. Yes, Subway. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm really excited to get into it. This is the one that I wanted to show you. I was like, oh, this is because this is it's cute, it's funny, it's like it's a little bit more cartoony. There's even a scene that reminds me a little bit of how like Merlin changes Arthur into a squirrel, and then they both get their own they both meet their own girl squirrels.
Right.
Right. Yeah. There's kind of a version of that here. Right. So Faust meets Margareta and Mephistopheles meets a Mrs. Stopheles. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, and they go on a double date and it's cute. Yeah, but for now, folks, this has been another episode of The Devil's Details. I have been Lester Ryan Clark, and you can summon me on all the socials as Lester Ryan Clark. Just let me go afterwards. Don't leave the pentagram closed, please.
And I've been Keenan Diaz. You could invoke me on Instagram and Letterboxd as Howdy Keenan.
Yeah. Find more of our shows and other really cool podcasts at truestory.fm. Like us on Instagram, and feel free to drop us a message at bananaforscalemail, that's MAIL, @gmail.com. We also got our Facebook listener group, Banana for Scale. That's a community for all of our shows, including this one. It's a private group. Just request to join and we'll let you in. If you want more, consider joining us at truestory.fm/join and look for Banana for Scale. That's us. You get bonus episodes of all our shows, access to our Discord, and you get your episodes a week early. Very, very cool. Wouldst thou like to live deliciously? We're not even asking for your souls. Just give us a 5 pentagram rating on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to our show. That and sharing the show by word of mouth or on social media helps our little podcast grow and find more cool people like you. All right, folks. Until next week, love and hisses. Mwah!